Welcome to the next episode of the Unfiltered Alternative. I'm your host, Brandon. This is your go to podcast for faith, beliefs, and current events. Please, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for liking and subscribing to our channel. I know we've got many views there, but please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Tonight's topic is the world getting better or worse? And like always, I've got my good friend, Professor Jay, to give me a hand with tonight's topic. Jay, hey buddy, what's happening?
Hey man, I'm glad to be back.
We
Can't
finally got a
wait
damn
to.
haircut.
Yeah, yeah, you too. Yeah.
Yeah, feeling a bit more aerodynamic, so it's been really good. Just want to say a big apologies to our fans as well. Been planning to get this one out for a while, but internet issues always occur, so been a little bit of a delay. But thank you for your patience. We've got a jam-packed episode for you tonight. So Jay, the topic of the night, to jump straight into it, is is the world getting better or worse? Let's get that going right there. We're going to start with the first topic is technology and transport.
Well, firstly, I want to just say that this is a great topic, a great discussion, um, and I think it's timing too because I can't tell you how many people I come across that whinge and complain that the world is getting so bad. You watch the news and there's, so much tragedy on the news and there's earthquakes happening and and
Volcano.
and COVID-19.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot of people out there that really have a very negative view of the world. Um, yes, especially in the last 2 years, a lot of people have been doing it tough. A lot of people have been struggling, maybe have lost their job during the coronavirus. We couldn't travel, we couldn't see loved ones because of lockdowns. So, yes, uh, I can understand why some people can feel that the world is in a bad place. But I think tonight we're going to sort of discuss and show you that the world is actually not too bad compared to other times in history. There's been way worse times in history.
Well,
Technology, okay. Yep.
yeah, well, like obviously, like with what you've just brought up there. So, if we looked at this 100 years ago, I know that we had vaccines with the Spanish flu and all that sort of stuff, but clearly there's been a lot of research in the mRNA vaccine that is basically gone around the world. But could you imagine if we weren't able to produce the vaccine, weren't able to manufacture it, distribute it worldwide? If we didn't have what are they called? N95 masks. If we didn't have ability to put people on ventilators in hospitals, like would the
Yep.
death rate would be possibly in its millions. I know everyone's got a different opinion about the severity of the disease, and it does look like it affects the elderly more. But life's life, and we need to protect it at all costs. So it's crazy. Like I think what you just said goes hand in glove with the technology part to kick it off straight away. Um, what else can you think
Well,
of in terms of the technology side of it?
the vaccine is definitely part of brilliant technology that's helping us out through this difficult time. If we go back 500 years ago, there was a black plague that swept through Europe.
That's right.
Up to 80 to 100 million people died. And
Mm.
and a large amount of those people died because they didn't have a vaccine back then. They didn't have medicine. So there's a perfect example of technology improving our life, helping us get through difficult times. Yeah, technology.
Well,
So we should be lucky that we do have a vaccine in this difficult time. Because in other pandemics in the past, they didn't have medicine or vaccines to get us through, and millions of people died.
yeah, yeah. Even technology to use, doing using Wi-Fi, using a microphone, using video cameras, to stream things like that, being able to communicate with relatives around the world. Even that's been interesting too, to if you've got relatives overseas, to be able to see how their countries have sort of coped with the pandemic. I know, Vietnam basically didn't have any cases. I don't think no one died there. They had a different view on it. Sweden definitely had a different view on it. America did, definitely in Melbourne where we live. It's just been very interesting, like it's a test case to see what other countries have done, and obviously China too. Can't get much out of them.
Technology is one of the great inventions, great advancing of humanity. Just like you said, technology connects us. Like you guys won't be watching us now without technology. Technology connects us, connects families on the other side of the world. The television, the telephone, the internet, social media. Yes, these things have their bad sides to it. If you have too much of it, it could be a bad thing. But look at all the great benefits technology, especially communications, has done. It connects us together. Just like that. You pick up your mobile phone and you can connect to anyone around the world, just like that. And we're living in the generation that has brought about this technology, this connection. You go back 30 years ago, to connect with someone in another country, you had to write them a letter, and it takes a whole month for the letter to get there. I got a pen pal. These days, you just send a text message and you get a response straight away. That's brilliant. I love this. I love that side of technology. It's great. The communication side of it.
I guess the alternative is, when you see, when you go on your computer and you get your cookies and all that sort of stuff comes up, and you feel like you're in a, Minority Report. You feel like it's going to head that way. That for me is the sort of dark side of technology. And
yes,
obviously we've got more access to information than we've ever had in our whole time, but that sort of opens up the Pandora's box for, people going into things that they shouldn't, black market, where you can buy a sloth or a toucan, get it delivered to your door. You probably weren't able to do that like 20 years ago. Obviously guns, whatever you want, on Silk Road or whatever. So that's the downside of technology. But in transport, I think how can anyone say there's anything negative or bad about transport? You think about going to work. Imagine going on the other side of town, horse and buggy, ride a horse, or go on a horse and cart.
Yep.
Doing 20 kilometers an hour. If you're lucky, that would just be traffic jam. Imagine that, traffic jams in that sort of scenario with the amount of population we got too.
All the horse and buggies lined up waiting for the light to change.
Yeah. Full Amish styles. Yeah.
Just think of it. It was only relatively recent that the motor car took over the world. Now, most people have a motor car. Just 80 years ago, our great-great-grandparents, they were traveling with horse and cart. And I don't know much about other countries, but in Australia, to get from Melbourne, the city, to Hillsville, they took 2 days, and they had to stop halfway and stay in a hotel overnight.
Yeah.
2 days just to get from the city to the country. Today, you can drive that in less than an hour in a car. Technology has, in that sense, in transport, has really improved our lives. Transport is a big plus.
We've given it a bit more thought. I think as well, and to sort of balance it up a bit, if you look at the way that things happen, for example, the airplane is created it was the Wright brothers. I think it was like 1914, or it would have been just before then, right?
Yeah.
And then a few years later, they're strapping bombs to an airplane and they're dropping it on each other in Europe, sort of thing, right? they create a motor car, and then later on, towards the end of World War One, 1918, they put armor on it and they put some guns on it, and the car becomes a tank.
Hmm.
Obviously, then you got ships. The light side or the bright side or the good side, whatever you want to call it. We can travel all around the world, no worries. Okay, it takes you months and months back then, but then you put guns and bombs and submarines attached to it, and you blow up stuff. So
Yeah.
it's almost like, in some ways, mankind, we always create something with good intentions, and then someone else comes along and tries to screw it up and make bad of it, just to be balanced, I think, in this discussion. Unfortunately, we've got the default position there.
I think anything that is created by man with good intention does a lot of improvement to humanity, to our life. But at the same time, there is a downside. Those inventions can also be used for bad and for bad things, evil things. So transport is a great thing. It helps us get from one place to another much quicker. A train, a motor car, an aeroplane—they're great inventions. But as you said, they can be turned into to war machines and
Mm.
weapons. Um, Same with the internet. We were talking about earlier. Social media. It's great. The communications, a telephone or a text message, we can connect to someone on the other side of the world in an instant. But the bad side is it could be used by governments to watch us like a big brother, watching over every single person through the social media, through Facebook, through Viber, through all these social media outlets. So there's a good side, there's a bad side to everything. But yeah, we just got to get a balance with technology.
Yeah, I think when sometimes people err on the side of caution, or they've been in situations like when I was thinking about technology again just before, I remember, I think it was around the time of the GFC, and Cyprus was in real bad financial state and
Hardship. Yeah.
hardship, and the government took 30% of every person's money in their bank account
Mm.
overnight. They just took the money straight out. Like, you can do that with technology now, but imagine having to do that like 100 years ago, going through every box, or whatever hell they used to do it back in the old days, deposit box, and having to, count the money, then take off 30%. You
Yeah.
can see where people definitely have skepticism over the government, and yeah, I guess it always comes back to that, that positive, negative, yin and yang, whatever you want to call it, bad and
There-
good
There's
sort of thing
there's got to
again.
be there's got to be balance. I think in general things are improving over the millennia, but there's always abuse to the system. People use things for their advantage, or governments use things for control, and they abuse the invention. They abuse the the achievements that we as humans we create.
Yeah,
The advancements are a good thing, but in the wrong hands, they could be abused and used for bad things.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, we just here, maybe just jump into the next one. Views of others around us, I should say.
The views of
This is
others
a big
around
one,
us.
it's a tough one. Like, you can grow up with with people around you. I believe that you really take on a lot of the views that your mum and dad have, and
Mm,
people around you. Probably more your mum and dad, where depending on what worldview they have, by default you end up adopting that idea, I think. And then maybe later on in life you might say, oh, yeah, maybe mum and dad weren't right, or you develop your own views on things. You have your own experiences for yourself. But like, if you, for example, your mum, someone in your family passed away at a young age, like your mum or your dad, you might be really bitter at the world. Why did it have to be me for? Why did you might think of it like that, or there could have been abuse, or there's so many ranges of so many things.
Hmm.
What do you think,
It's
Jay?
it's definitely true. There's statistics and research that prove it that um, most of the time, if you're brought up a certain way, say you're brought up conservative with a conservative mindset, voting conservative politically, if you're brought up that way, your parents were politically conservative, it's likely that you would grow up being conservative too. But that's an influence in every area of life. If your parents were alcoholic
Mm.
and gamblers, the research shows that it's likely will carry on down the generations, that the children will grow up likely to have an alcoholic problem too, or a gambling problem too, because they copy their parents.
It's a generational sort of thing.
It's a generational thing. Now, it's not always like that. There are times where children they get sick of their dad, the way the dad, the lifestyle of the dad being drunk all the time. So the children don't want to be the same, and they change themselves, and they
Yeah,
say, "I'm not going to be like my dad," and they completely different to their parents. Um, Sometimes parents say they're more politically conservative. There's research that's showing a lot of younger generation are more progressive because they want to change in the world. They want to improve the environment. They want to improve the lifestyle. They want to progress to something better. So they
yeah,
end up being different to their parents and their parents' generation because they want a different future. So in many cases, people do follow what their parents are, but there are some cases where people, the children, purposely change. They want to be different.
yeah, for sure. Especially, I think a lot of the time, about um, we get involved in like cycles. There's cycles. We need to break bad cycles. I think as a good way to live your life is to always be to look at self and to be self conscious and self aware of what's happening in your world. And if things around you are bad, then you need to break out of that. You need to be the one that stands up for change. So if you're like
Yep.
Jay just said, if if say for example your dad was alcoholic and you have your own family, you should really just make a point of that you don't want to bring up your children in that environment. And that you can add to so many things to it, or your parents, they have a lot of food around and they have a problem with, eating, and you end up like that too. Like for example, yeah. Anyway, I'll move on from that point, but you
It,
can go, you can see where we're heading here.
I think generations play a big part as well. Uh, Most older generations tend to be more conservative because they they feel that their time in the 1950s, um, life was better, and so they want to conserve that. They want to conserve that. So that's why ideologically they're more conservative. Um, while the younger generation, yeah, they do want to change. They don't see the past as being great or being good. They see a lot of flaws in the past, so they want to change that. They want to progress to something better. So there is that generation. What generation were you born? Plays a lot into it as well. Are you Generation Y, Generation X, baby boomer generation? Depending on the period that you grew up in, also can influence um, your view of the world.
Yeah.
Is the world good? Is the world bad? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Depending on when you were born, can influence that.
hmm I might put up the next one, which is I think they go very close together. Life experiences. Think like sometimes if you've had some bad episodes in your life, you've had a car accident, you can easily have the mentality of stuff the world, da da da. I broke my leg or whatever happened to you. And you can always, like, I think there's always an opportunity to take. I know, like, it's sort of difficult to sort of come up with something when you've had a car accident and busted your leg. It's not much you can find positive about it.
No.
But obviously you survived. If you survived, obviously you can say, okay, I might not drink alcohol anymore when I'm driving, or I'll be more aware of, um, you know, how I'm driving, or if I'm tired, or like, there's always something out of it. But you can always take, there's a negative way, or there's always a positive. We always talk about, having the half glass half full, glass half empty kind of thing. Um, it's a bit like that, isn't it?
Hmm. Well, I'll draw back to the topic: is the world getting better or worse? Life experiences. I think the way the world is now, it creates an atmosphere, creates an environment where people can experience good or bad in their life and adapt to that. If they've experienced something bad or experienced a bad upbringing, a bad childhood, they
Yeah.
can. The world is at a certain place where you can improve yourself. You've got the tools around you. You've got the help, the counseling, the services where you can improve yourself from a bad experience. Um, if we went back to other periods in time, went back 100 years ago or 200 years ago or 500 years ago, if you have a bad experience, that will probably carry on for the rest of your life, because
That's
in
true.
other time periods, they did not have the services to help you improve your life. They did not have counseling services. They did not have, you know, social groups. If you're in a rut, you're stuck in it for most of your life, and that's why in the past most people lived very poorly. They had very bad life experiences, and it stuck with them for most of their life. But
Especially if
today,
you,
I think a lot of people can improve themselves because there is opportunity to improve.
I think also too, like, some people who grew up around the war, like World War II particularly, because that's something I can roughly relate to in some ways. You'll get the point in a second. My grandmother used to be a big hoarder of like food and stuff like that. And
Mm,
to her, she didn't know when her next meal was going to come. So there's this real stock up, we don't know what tomorrow is going to sort of bring. Let's just get ready, let's have more than what we need and all that sort of stuff. And that was her. That's something that she carried with her.
mm.
And like other people, like maybe they stockpiled a lot of food, and their kids end up stockpiling a lot of food too. Or they've got that mentality, oh, we don't know when the end of the world's going to come. Um,
Be prepared.
we're waiting for Jesus to come back any minute, kind of thing. And
Mm,
we've got to any minute, the moment's imminent. Always sort of like, and then you always look for bad in some ways. You look for um, what the next sign of things are going to be.
yep. Yep.
That can be another thing too. Like if you go to a church and it's all about end times, and not that really gets preached a lot at church, but that's more something that's sort of said amongst friends and family members and stuff like that. Or if you think that, the end is imminent, I'm sure people have had conversations in the last 2 years where the Lord's coming back soon. You hear this all the time,
Mm,
and it's almost like this anticipation, and you've been hearing it for such a long time, and you're like, okay,
mm.
when's it going to kind of happen? And all right, what do I need to do? Do I have to stock up food? Do I need to don't get the vaccine? Don't worry about the environment. All this sort of stuff.
Well, churches are very influential. Um, if if the church is always sort of preaching negative, the world's not so good, oh, we have to get out there and save souls because we're going to hell, like if they always got like a negative sort of
The end is nigh.
message, then yeah, you'll grow up thinking the world is so bad because you keep hearing it every week in church or amongst the church people. They're always talking about the end times, it's coming soon. Then you will have this mindset that the world is really bad. But if the church is focusing on a positive message, the love of Christ, um, love our neighbor, help one another, care for one another, um, the world is improving because of the work of the church, improving because
Yeah.
the days of Jesus was so bad. If the message is positive, you would have more of a positive lifestyle and a positive outlook. So yeah, churches and the message in the churches definitely can manipulate or send a, a certain message can really be influential on the way people think.
Yeah, 100%. I think, pastors can have a big say in that, you know.
Part of this topic is the world getting worse. A lot of my church friends, I would say most church people have a negative view of the world. They think the world is so bad. That's why they need Jesus. Jesus will fix it. You need Jesus in your life because the world's so bad and grim, you know, and whenever there's a worldwide struggle, they always think it's signs of the end. Signs of the end times. Or the vaccine. The signs of the end. So they've always got this negative view of everything. And yeah, this topic, this video, this podcast we're making now, I hope, yeah, we can show our viewers that the world is not so grim. There's so much good stuff happening and have been happening over the years.
Yeah, and on the point, we'd love to hear from you guys. Drop a like, obviously, for the video and a comment. We really want to interact with you guys. Let us know what you think. Do you agree with what we're saying? Do you disagree with what we're saying? Let us know. This is a platform that is built to open up discussions between believers, non-believers, anyone, really, like with the topics at hand. This is a pretty open sort of topic tonight. It's not very specifically Bible based or really harshly on Christianity. It's more of a human topic. We all are boiling in the same pot together at the end of the day, and depending on what really, it's just about uh, what you sort of get fed with. We can really push. Look, we've got access to it. A lot of these topics we're talking about tonight, they interlink with each other. So, like life experiences, I can go on YouTube and I can look up all bad videos of the world and find 1,000 reasons why the world has gone to the dogs. Or I can also find 1,000 reasons why the world is gone great. Or improving, or we're moving forward. So I've lost my train of thought. They keep getting distracted. People keep text messaging me. I keep getting all these things, and my hand keeps going here and all this kind of stuff.
Social media can be very distracting. That's one of the
Yeah,
downsides of it.
but that's right. So I was going to say, we really don't. I don't think really this comes up in church or in life in general. That we don't get told, or doesn't come up as enjoy the now, the right now. Be still and just take in what's happening. We don't. It's always about tomorrow, or it's always about what happened in the past. What about right now, in the present? Enjoy right now.
Yeah.
Jay, you still there with me? You're
Yep,
frozen up
I'm
for a
here.
second. Alrighty,
Are you
let's
hearing
jump
me?
into the next one. Life expectancy. Oh, sorry. Did you have anything else to add to the last point, or are you good to go?
No, let's continue.
Let's go. All right, life expectancy. If you live in 2,000 years ago, your life expectancy, you're gonna basically drop dead at 40. Yeah, there is no two
That's
ways
right.
about it. You're not living very long at all. I know that we list. You're gonna. You look through the Bible. You got Methuselah living to like 900 or whatever years old, and you got Adam there, and you got other people in there. But we're talking about maybe more specifically in the last 2,000 years.
Well,
That contrast with what we can have now. They're saying you can live between 120 and 150 years old. I don't know anyone who's lived to 120, to be honest with you, or many to get to 100, but I think the average age nowadays in Australia is about 83 years old. So I think that's
yeah,
roughly across the board a similar sort of age. But yeah,
okay.
if you're living back 2,000 years ago, you're going to have, probably scurvy because you can't get access to citruses because there's no technology. By the time we get the oranges out of China to get the vitamin C, it's not going to happen, mate. So your teeth are going to fall out like the pirates used to back in the day.
Back then they didn't have toothpaste, so yeah, their teeth were terrible.
Yeah, exactly
There's an
right.
improvement.
Bad breath.
No,
Can you imagine that?
they didn't have toilet paper back then.
No
Could you
toilet
imagine that?
paper, Scott and Berry. Yeah.
See
Imagine
that?
trying to get, kissing people back in the day with bad teeth.
Oh,
No chewing gum. No chewing gum, no floss.
just having toilet paper and toothpaste alone says that the world's getting better
Or washing
from
people,
those days.
washing your hands. It's like washing your hands after toilet, after eating, after, what is the saying? The surgeons back, it was about 100 years ago, they didn't know that if you went from one surgery to the next one, you're basically cross-contaminating or cross-blooding people. And then
It,
many women who were giving birth were dying in their millions, because of just something basic like washing your hands,
yep. We have improved a lot in the area of life and life expectancy. Like it not even just 2,000 years ago, only 100 years ago in the 1920s, people only lived to their 60s in most
Yeah.
European countries and Australia and in the Americas. It in the last 100 years, it has improved so much. We're living into our hundreds now. Um, a lot of people are living into their hundreds now. Um, and many of us are, like you said, the average age of life is to their 80s, 81, 82, 83.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Bible where, some characters in the Bible lived to 900 years old. I think Moses lived to about 600 or something. But yeah, I just want to make a point that is largely metaphorically um, and symbolically speaking. There's no other
Really
context.
controversial here, man. Way too
We
controversial.
won't get into it too much, but there's no other context apart from mythological stories where people live that long. You got great historians as well as philosophers. Aristotle, Socrates, they were historians. You know, taking down history, and in their day, this is about 2,500 years ago. Most people only lived to about 50. And that was around the same time as the Bible talking about people living to 900. So you could see that the Bible was more symbolic in its stories. Um, so
Have you
yeah, for
have you ever
most of time,
sorry
people live to about 50.
have you ever heard that I guess it's like a theory before, like where they say that there's no such thing as Neanderthals. So Neanderthal people, like, they have the really heavy brow and they got the big ears, sort of thing, and that's the ridges on the head. They're saying that they're the parts of your body that never stop growing. So they've said that they're really humans. They're like really really old humans. Have you ever heard that before come up or people say
I
that?
haven't heard that exactly, but I know there's a big debate amongst science about like we jumped and went straight to Homo sapien. Um, we're descendant. We're Homo sapiens. We're descendant of our primitive Homo sapiens, um, which are of the breed of Homo erectus. erectus meaning erect, to stand. We were the first of the ape species to stand up, upright. That's why we're Homo erectus, while the Neanderthals, they were a
What is
different, you know the word I'm trying to say.
Hey, this is Unfiltered Alternative, all right? Any
It's
brain farts,
unfiltered.
mistakes,
They were not so erected.
the
So
irony
they're a
of what I
completely different breed.
mispronunciations. It's all in there, folks.
I'll
It's
edit
really
it out
because we're
later.
lazy that we don't want to edit. But anyway, no, we don't edit nothing. It's staying.
But
Sorry, cut you
yeah,
off.
we even in the very early stages of human history, the first Homo sapiens, they didn't live very long. Their life expectancy, they only lived very short. It improved over time. They got to living into their 80s as well. And then once civilization started, we started living in cities and big urban groups. Then our life expectancy went right down again. It's probably, I think, largely to do with the diet and the lifestyle that we had for thousands of years. But in the last 100 years, we've
Going
really
backwards.
improved it.
We're going backwards in terms of our grandparents and stuff used to be really active and stuff in the field. Now we just sit on our proverbial behinds, and that way we're gone bad. But anyways, morality.
Okay.
This one's an
What do
interesting
you
one. I
have
feel like
anything to say about morality,
there's plenty to say about morality.
Mr. Man in the bunker?
Bunker man. Morality. All right. I think. Look, we've got another one coming up. Morality. All right.
Okay, I'll jump in.
All right, you jump in while I have a bit of a think. All right, go for it.
Morality is for me, I would say morality has improved largely over the years. If you look through time over the last 3,000 years, morality has completely improved in pretty much every area. Now, most Christians, particularly evangelical Christians, I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but most Christians, they would say morality is getting worse. I've come across so many Christians where I end up having a debate with them on morality. They keep saying the world's getting worse. Oh, they're accepting gay marriage. They're accepting all these divorce rate is through the roof. Morality is so bad. They always bring up the homosexual thing and the gay marriage thing, and they always, oh, it's the same as Sodom and Gomorrah. There's no shame. People are partying all the time, young people getting drunk all the time and smoking, and it's the same as Sodom and Gomorrah. I hear that all the time with Christians. They always bring up gay marriage, the
We have
drunkenness of people.
COVID because of gay marriage, maybe, or something. Is what some people say.
Well, yeah, there is that.
Earthquakes and volcanoes because of that.
These natural disasters and COVID was brought about because of our immorality. Now, they always bring up gay marriage. They always bring up partying and drunkenness with the young people today, and they always compare it to Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, I think there will always be a bit of bad behavior, a bit of immorality in the human race. But I think the world has improved in so many areas. I brought up this in a discussion with a friend, became a debate, a Christian friend, who was going on and on, oh, the world's getting worse and all this, and so immoral. And I said, okay, look at Jesus' day. It was normal it was normal for a 14-year-old to be betrothed, to be arranged marriage to a much older man and have lots of children and have no say in the marriage. That was a normal thing in Jesus' day in many parts of the world, not just in the Middle East,
That
but
still happens right now in some countries.
it still happens. But it's largely it's largely not allowed.
Yeah.
Now, if that were to happen in a democratic country, a 14-year-old marries and have sex with a much older man, that is pedophilia today. That is what we call pedophilia. Now, that pedophilia was allowed in ancient times. I think we've improved on that point. We don't allow that to happen anymore. People don't think of that. Example, Mary and Joseph, Mary, the Jesus, mother of Jesus. Most scholars, most historians say she was 14 when she gave birth to Jesus. And they say that Joseph was most likely in his mid 30s. And that was a normal thing back then. Now, I have nothing wrong with, a young person and an old person. My girlfriend's much younger than me. But that is a 14-year-old, a teenager. In
Still a kid.
today's sorry?
You're still a child.
Still
Still a
a
kid.
child. In today's standard, that is pedophilia, a teenager and an older man. But that was normal in the ancient world. And no one ever brings that up as being immoral. In the ancient world, women had no rights at all. They
You're
had no
taking all my
rights to.
points now, man.
You can jump in anytime you want. You
No,
have
no, go
something to
for it.
say about women?
I've got yeah. Don't worry. Like, all right, how we treat women. I know that we did a pilot podcast before we started recording on StreamYard, before we started doing on the Zoom. This was a big topic for us that we wanted to talk about. How we treat women. Definitely back in the day, this is the total unfiltered alternative. If you go back and read your Bible,
This is the
the way that
reality.
women have been it's if a woman walks down the road and a man finds her attractive and abuses her, and she's all loses her virginity, and all the guy has to do is just go down to the dad and go, here's a cow or a goat, my whatever, and then that's his wife. How shocking is that? The woman has no real choice in that marriage. She's been abused by the man, and she's basically sold off like a commodity, which is completely shocking.
Yep.
Obviously nowadays when you have a partner, you choose. In the Western world, I'm talking about the Western world, but even in the East, it's still consensual at an age. We're not talking about you know baby, what do they say, cradle snatching and stuff like that. And obviously the other point for me with this particular topic is slavery. We don't like to talk about it much in Christianity, but slavery is endorsed in the Bible. Slavery has been abused. It's abused obviously the black community. Obviously in the South in America back in the day, the people there used the Bible to justify their hatred and the way that they did things, and it's we've moved past that. Slavery to me is completely immoral. It's
Yeah.
completely immoral to own someone as commodity. What's the verse in the Bible? I think was it Exodus 21. Basically tells you how and where you can get your slaves. There's one rules for the Jews, obviously for 7 years, and then basically you can hand them down to your kids as slaves.
Oh,
And this whole thing about it's just they're just there because they want to be there. No, that doesn't work that way. No, they're bought and sold, and they can be passed down to their kids. You
yep.
read your Bible, people. Look, it's in there. You know,
That that's
probably on us.
immoral.
On us, we should have probably come up with the specific scriptures. I'm pretty sure it's Exodus 21. that goes through the whole list, and it tells you where to get them from and what you can do with them. And if you
Mm.
beat him up, if he doesn't die within 2 or 3 days, he's all right. But if you kill him, then that's on you, kind of thing. Like, this is really backward sort of stuff here. And obviously, you've brought up before about the gay people and stuff like that. I really believe that we should have a world where we look after each other, and treat each other as equal. That's really where we should be going to, in terms of society, giving everyone an equal opportunity to thrive and to survive and to make it, and have an even playing field. And just because you're a certain color or a certain sex or whatever, you shouldn't really be. I don't think anyone should be beaten up for that sort of stuff.
No.
Emotionally,
Um,
the whole works.
no. We're all human, and to judge someone on something petty like the color of their skin, or judge a whole race of people because of the color of their skin, is immoral. And it was like that for hundreds of years, including in the Bible times. Most slaves were from a certain religious group or a certain country, and they just enslaved the whole population, and it was okay. But it's not just in the Middle East. That was worldwide. You look at parts of Asia, they had slavery as well, and it was normal. Uh, the marriage thing that we were talking about, it's not just in the Middle East. It was worldwide, where a woman had no rights in the marriage. She'll be just, arranged marriage at a young age to marry anyone that she never met before. That was widespread throughout Europe, the Middle East. It was also common in Asia. So, as a world community, we have improved a lot in these immoral areas. We really
Yeah.
have. The racism thing, I've got this big book of the history of Australia, and it was only, I think, 1910. Um, the world's best boxer, I can't remember his name, but he was a world champion at the time. He was a black American, and he came. He was winning all these titles. He was treated really badly in America. The whites hated him because he's winning all the titles and taking them away from white boxers. And when he came to Australia, even before he stepped in the ring, most Australians that went to the boxing spat at him and threw things at him simply because he was black.
No, it's shocking.
This is a man who's at the top of his game. He's the world's best boxer at the time, and this is the way we treated him simply because of his skin color.
Yeah, it's
I felt like
disgusting.
crying when I read this.
Yeah,
It was terrible.
shocking.
Today, we would admire anyone, no matter what country they come from, no matter what color of their skin they are. We would admire and of their achievements. So we've come a long way when it comes to morality.
Yeah, like in the sport section, like you clearly, like in America in the NBA, they had a lot of Black Lives Matter sort of stuff. Obviously, in Australia, we have I think it's 2 rounds of the AFL, our football code here, where we acknowledge Aboriginal players from past and present. So we're pretty and even in soccer overseas in Europe, there's like a lot of fair play stuff that's there, where they're really trying to stamp it out and call it out, which I think is
Well,
really good. We've come a long way in that regard.
while we're still on morality, and you brought up sport with football. Before every football game, and I think they do it in America as well, but here in Australia, before every AFL football game is played, we give respect to the native peoples and the landowners. They do a speech,
That's right.
that we respect the Aborigine landowners of the land because of the history that white man treated them so badly and did not respect the original landowners. But now we bring that up every time there's a sporting game. We show respect to those landowners, Aborigines,
Yeah, I don't
native
think
people.
they don't do that overseas. I know that we do that a lot here. we make a real conscious effort of it. Yeah. But anyway, moving along, knowledge. Now, this one
So
here, like,
morality has improved vastly, I would say.
absolutely, for sure. Knowledge has increased. The Bible says that in the end times, knowledge will multiply and increase. Well, I think
Is
that's
that
a
a
bit
good?
obvious, isn't it? Because if you're going to build on the shoulders of your ancestors, it's going to be that's knowledge, isn't it? You know,
So,
if your
Mr.
dad,
Man in the bunker,
if your
is
father
it a
was a
good thing?
carpenter,
Is it a
what?
good thing that knowledge has increased? That we all have more knowledge, or is it a bad thing?
Well, you think about it, right? When Galileo discovered that the Earth went around the sun, and the Catholic Church said to him, "No, no, no, it's not true. It's the other way around." That's knowledge, isn't it? And unfortunately, again, the church is responsible for holding humanity back. And gosh, who knows if that was endorsed back in the day, how much further ahead would we be? But right now,
Yeah.
or
No, well,
people who
yeah.
think that people in the Bible who think the Earth is flat. We haven't made a podcast about that. You can definitely make a podcast about that. The Bible says the Earth is held on four pillars. It talks
Yeah.
about the circle of the Earth, and then a couple of verses down it talks about a ball. So they knew what a ball was. They knew what a circle was. So I don't want anyone to think that they didn't have the words back then. No, they had the words back then. They used to think there was a firmament. We used to have the
Mm.
Earth was like a like one of those snowballs that used to shake up, and all the what is it? Confetti? What is it inside there? It looks like
Um,
coconut shavings. It's inside the bowl,
white
like the
white
the
fluff.
snow globe, right?
Mm.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. They used to think that but we know there's outer space. We know stars. We know planets. We've gone to controversial. We've gone to the moon, or we haven't gone to the moon. We know where the moon is. It's not made out of cheese, that's for sure.
I, well, knowledge has improved, um, and I think what also has improved is the control of it. Like you said, Catholic, like the oppression of it. The Catholic Church used to oppress knowledge and not let the people know about what they knew. They would not let the people know about a lot of the stuff
Yeah,
being being um, understood and being found, and they sort of kept it to themselves. So most people in going back a few hundred years ago, most people didn't have much knowledge at all. They were very simple-minded people because knowledge was just kept up the top. You know, the scientists, the theologians, the philosophers, the church. They just kept it amongst themselves. They didn't want the public to know all about, the world is not flat, it's round. Oh, we don't let the people know. They might, they might do something bad with this knowledge. Yeah, we'll just keep going ahead with this flat Earth story. Um, it I think it was with the Enlightenment period, around the time they started inventing a lot of things in the 16th, 17th century, the Enlightenment, when electricity was invented, when the steam train was invented, all these inventions started coming out. The church could not contain it. It just got out, and the public got a hold of all the knowledge and all the inventions and all the improvements, and that was the beginning of the average person having knowledge, having access to knowledge. Um,
yeah. I
so
was going to
so
say a
I,
couple of.
half the
I was going to say a
improvement
couple
of
of.
knowledge is the fact that it's not suppressed and controlled. Half the improvement is that it is accessible to everyone now. That's half the good of it.
Yeah. So on that point, like if you know anything about your history, particularly like, secret societies and all that sort of stuff, how all that sort of started, they used to have guilds. So people who were stonemasons in Europe used to be able to make those amazing carvings of the gargoyles and all that sort of stuff on the churches and all that sort of thing. And they would have secret groups, and like, obviously you want to protect your craftsmanship, your skills, and how you do it. That's not because if everyone knows the trick or everyone knows the skill, then you lose your specialty, don't you? So that's where that sort of starts. And back in the day, like if your dad was a carpenter, that's all you know. You just know how to nail wood and stuff and build stuff out of wood. There's not like when you go
You
to
don't want to
school
share
now.
that knowledge.
Yeah, but like now you go to school, and just because your dad was a carpenter, you can become a plumber, you can become a teacher, you can become a pilot, you can do anything. It's opened up so much, I guess with the other part with knowledge as well, there's a lot of fake knowledge as well too. There's a big this particular one deserves it. It could be an own podcast in itself. Knowledge, like there's so many people there currently who are into the vaccine stuff, the COVID stuff. They all think they know something. They all think they've got the knowledge. They watched a doctor talk. They watched some garage YouTube video. Everyone is an expert now. You got fake news. You got legit stuff. And I feel like in some ways the water in that regard is a bit muddied. There can be like pseudo knowledge or fake knowledge, and then you got the true knowledge where people have actually studied it for many, many years, in and out day. But now you got someone who sits on the toilet for 3 hours and they know how how a rocket works or how vaccines work or whatever. Everyone's an expert.
That's the downside. It's great that knowledge is accessible to everyone now. It's not suppressed. Well, in the democratic world, if you're living in Iran or Afghanistan or whatever, you're pretty much suppressed, controlled by or even China, where they control the internet. But in the democratic world, it's pretty much. Sorry.
North Korea, they still think.
Yes.
They've all got their own internet there. Like they've got no YouTube, they've got no Facebook. Everything's all banned.
They're not, connected to the rest of the world. But in most of the world, in the democratic world, knowledge is accessible to anyone, which is great. But the downside is if you hear something and you don't agree with it, I'm going to find someone else. Another opinion, and you can just go on the internet and get another opinion and believe that. And that opinion might not be from an expert, might not be from a real person who knows the field. It's just some opinionated bozo in his garage, So that's the downside. If you don't like the knowledge, you can just go and find another piece of knowledge that you agree with.
That's true, because we live in a time where information is so accessible, but you can find anyone that justifies your belief system or gives you points of view. I really think we should really focus on having a balance of opinion, taking both sides of the story and then sort of making up your idea in the middle,
Yeah.
All right, let's jump in, man. Next one.
Yeah.
Equality. I think we sort of touched on this before.
Well,
so there might not be a whole heap to bang out in this one, but equality.
We'll go into it a little bit. Equality is one of those areas that has definitely improved, especially in the 20th and 21st century. Equality for women was a big movement in the 1960s. Women having the right to work, women having the right to, to sleep with who they want. That the pill. Women rights, is a big one. Say again.
To have a career, to have like their own hopes and dreams, their own money too, like their own freedom.
Yeah.
You know,
When,
I had a discussion during the week, actually, in the last 7 days, where someone more of the fundamentalist persuasion basically said to me that women are just partners of men, and they should be there to support men and make sure there's a dinner there at the end of the night, and um,
a
look after
dinner.
the kids. You know, your job's just to make sure the house is nice and look after the kids. And it got heated, man. I'm telling you. Like I
Mm.
said to him, you know, what, you know, were you living in the Stone Age or something? Like, and this guy has daughters. You know, he's got daughters, and imagine looking at your kid in the face and saying, "Hey, you know, all you have for your life is just getting married and having a kid or a few
Yeah.
kids and making sure that you know how to make the porridge just right."
Porridge. Well,
Goldilocks style.
equality equality can also be, depending on the culture that 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 you come from. You know, in a lot of Middle Eastern cultures, equality is not a is crap. You know, women are not treated equal in a lot of um, conservative Islamic countries. Women don't have rights. Women, like in Saudi Arabia, um, women were not allowed to drive until just recently. Could you imagine that? Weren't allowed to drive simply because they were a woman.
Mm.
Women were not allowed to go to sporting events. Um, Parts of the Middle East, including
That's
Saudi
true.
Arabia, women could not go shopping, particularly at night time, unless they have a man with them, either their husband or their brother. So that's not equal, is it? Um, in the democratic world, I think equality is improving, but there's still parts of the world where equality is still needs improving, still needs to change. Um, when it comes to race, uh, blacks and whites, we still have issues. You know, the Black Lives Matter movement, um, but it has improved from where it was. Blacks used to be slaves. There used to be segregation. Whites here, blacks there. You know, we've improved from that time.
Yeah.
So in some areas, equality has improved, especially in the democratic countries, but we still have a long way to go uh, in some other cultures, in some other parts of the world, particularly in the Middle East, I would say.
Yeah. For sure. Definitely, man. All right. Last one. Oh, no, second last one. Science. We sort of talked about this before.
Science. Well, science is kind of like technology in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. Very much so.
Um,
Like,
well,
obviously, you know, right now, there's what do you got? You got Musk and you got Bezos and you got Richard Branson who want to put people into the orbit of Earth. Like,
yeah.
imagine like that. Like, that's to get. Oof, I can't imagine that being in the probably the next 10 years at least to be something that's accessible to all walks of life. You're going to have some serious money behind you to be able to get a ticket on one of those things. But even that is so crazy, ridiculous, isn't it? To be able to do that, to be able to go up and see the moon up close or get closer to the stars, look down on Earth. That's
That would be,
amazing.
yeah, it's fantastic. It is in reach. You know, it's in reach to travel into space. Maybe when you and I are in our 70s and 80s, maybe it would be a lot more accessible. Maybe we would jump on one of these ships and take a ride throughout space. You know,
Mm, for sure.
yeah. But 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 the awareness of science, science has been around for a min, for a long time. Um, like Aristotle and Socrates and all these scientists, they had science. You know, Leonardo da Vinci. You know, they had science hundreds of years ago. But what is great about it now in this generation is it's accessible to everyone.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, and we're all learning and improving. everyone's on the ride. Well, in the past, it was only the elite, but now everyone's on the ride, watching science improve and learning more and more about science, about the stars, about the universe, about the sea, the ocean, animals, life itself. Science is endless.
Even like something really mundane, like I was having this discussion yesterday at a barbecue about like gluten intolerance. I mean, how many millions of people over the history of the world would have had food intolerances and lived their whole life and had inflammation and being sick, lactose intolerance. But now, like, if you had gluten-free bread or lactose-free milk, or we've got so many alternatives to food, or even like having pills or medicine or whatever, the accessibility to have freer lives, to have more fulfilled lives, without being in chronic pain all the time. And, science has really helped us with that. Whereas before, it was just like, the potion. What potion can we come up with? Like witchcraft, I guess. Witch's brew. We need a cat's tail and someone's lock of hair and put it in a big jug, cauldron or something. All this sort of thing. And we actually have like real answers to things now. Like it's removed a lot of the superstition that's there, isn't it? Hasn't it?
I think
not like old wives' tales and stuff like that too.
For most of human history,
those sorts of things.
For most of human history, we have been led by superstition, but in the last 200 years, in the 20th and 21st century, science is making the way. Science is showing us the answers to all the big questions. And science is based on search and find, is based on research. It's
being able to test things repeatedly.
Yes, tests. And science is based on substance. It's not just some witchcraft made up by some, spiritual guru, that just makes things up. Science is really based on fact, based on proven, researched fact. And I think it's, a lot of Christians don't like science because science disproves a lot of religion. But I think science is one of the greatest things in human advancement. It has advanced our humanity. It has helped us improve our lives. It has helped us understand life. We understand life better because of science. We understand anatomy better. We understand the universe better because of science.
I have to ask you a question. Are you punching the table like every 10 seconds?
No.
I just keep seeing the vase like shaking like an earthquake that we had like a couple of weeks ago here.
Wow. No, that's just the earthquake, not me.
Your Italian side's coming out. You're just moving your hands and just punching away.
Maybe it is me.
What's that?
I have my shoulder on a table here.
What's Newton's law? Action reaction.
Yeah, every action has affects the effect of.
Yeah.
That's science. There you go.
Question. Correct. Exactly. So, question without any warning: is the Bible and science, are they compatible in your opinion? Do you think that's something, or do you think that's what it kind of disproves it, or proves it, or what's your take on that?
I think science and religion can be compatible. It can be compatible, but both sides, science and religion, both sides have to agree to work side by side. Usually, they start off disagreeing, and so they go nowhere. They just start off disagreeing with everything. Everything was created with Adam and Eve, and then science says no, everything was created through evolution, and they just disagree from the beginning instead of sitting down and actually working through it. If they sat down and spoke and discussed, they would see there's a lot of things can go side by side. Science and religion can actually see a lot gels together.
Yeah. It's confronting. It's always going to be that age-old discussion about it, isn't it?
In some
Depends on
cases, I was going to say, in some cases, science does disprove parts of religion, does disprove parts of the Bible, but the meaning of life, the meaning of of life itself, and suffering, and the journey of life, the journey of looking for answers. Those questions, science can't explain it. They're faith questions. So science can disprove some things, but other things they can never disprove because it's a real faith thing.
yeah. There's, Kent Hovind still says the world is, 6,000 years old, and you got other people who have other ideas. So, I don't know, is it a matter of just getting people in the room and putting it all aside and go, like, how can it be? I just struggle with this. How can it be that you got one guy who says the world, like, this is the other thing too. The Bible specifically says the world was created in 6 days and God chilled out on the seventh, right? And then somehow it's almost like there's a middle ground where they've gone, no, hold on. 1 day is 1,000 years and 1,000 years is 1 day. So they've given themselves a bit of an extension there. And then you got other people, the other camp that says, well, no, it's 4.6 billion years, blah, 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 and all this sort of stuff. Like, they are huge, huge differences. These are massive chasms we're talking here. One of these groups of people's not telling the truth. Or they're defending something that with all, with all their life or whatever. Everything behind it.
That's why on the surface, that's why on the surface it looks like religion and science can't gel, because you say the scientists are saying 6 billion years, while the religion are saying 6 days. So that's why it looks like it can't gel. But if you sit down and start to realize that some things in the Bible are meant to be symbolic, metaphoric, meant to be understood as story, allegory, then you could see that maybe it can work with science. Maybe humanity, life itself, was created over billions of years, not 6 days. There's always a different way of looking at it.
Audio difficulties here. The lag is crazy, man.
Well, there's a downside to technology right there.
Correct.
But
might have to get fast internet speed, I think. Anyway, what we'll do is we've got the last point. We'll get to it because we've run out of time. The alternative view. Other side of it all. I know that we sort of touched on that all the way through tonight. It's really just based on everything that we talked about, isn't it? Life experiences, morality, knowledge, equality. You can always look at it. Well, there's always two sides of the story.
The alternative view, well, I think our view is that the world is getting better. In most cases, the world is getting better. The alternative view is the world is getting worse. Morality and the world is going backwards and getting worse. And I think people come up with that view because they may have felt the world was simpler back when they were a child, and there's too many changes now, so they want to conserve the world that they grew up with. It makes them conservative. But a lot of those people that have that view that the world is getting worse.
I'm going to quickly boot you out and put you back in. All right? Because this.
Okay, let's do that.
I've got no idea. speaking alien language or something. There he is. You back?
Hello, am I here?
Yeah, a big smile on your face.
Can you
Try
hear
that
me?
again. I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Your image is sort of frozen.
I think people with the alternate view that the world is getting worse, they come from a time when to them the world was good and comfortable. And now there's so many changes happening that they think the world's getting worse. And they just want to keep and conserve the past because they think it was better. But a lot of these people with that view, they don't look properly at human history. They don't look over the last 2,000, 3,000 years. They just look at the last few years. But if they had a proper examination, a proper look over the last 3,000 years, they would see that in most fields, the world has improved.
Yeah.
So to sort of draw to a close, I would say, in my opinion, the world has gotten much better and it's continuing to improve in most areas.
Definitely. On that note, I want to say a big thank you for the viewers for if you got through this point and you're still watching after it looks like Jay got abducted by aliens or something crazy happened or Satan got into his Wi-Fi connection there. But please, people, like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Would love to hear from you. We want you to get you engaged into the channel. This is the Unfiltered Alternative. I'm not going to bother editing what he just said. And it is what it is. Till next time, peace.
See ya.